How is it going, everyone? I appreciate you all joining me here on this unexpected live stream as we grieve the loss of the shocking loss of one of the most special and gifted performers of the modern era of professional wrestling. It really means a lot to me that a lot of you would join. We're going to have this open conversation, not taking super chats or anything like that. Nothing here is for profit. If you have thoughts, feel free to share them in the YouTube chat. I will say, I do have my Patreon, wrestling according to alba.com, where my patrons do get access to all of my recordings where they can hop on and join. So some of my patrons are backstage right now, and I'll have them hop on and join and have things to say. So if you would like to join and hop on and say anything, that's where you can get that information, wrestling according to alba.com. But that is most certainly not the point here, because I'm going to include everyone's comments on the YouTube. We got a great amount of people in the chat, and I appreciate you tuning in as we talk about this absolutely stunning turn of events here. We learned under an hour ago from WWE Chief Content Officer Paul Levesque, said just received a call from WWE Hall of Famer Mike Rotunda, who informed us of the tragic news that our WWE family member for life, Wyndham Rotunda, also known as Bray Wyatt, unexpectedly passed earlier today. Our thoughts are with his family, and we ask that everyone respect their privacy at this time. Tweeted that out, and there's been, needless to say, a ton of reaction coming in from around the pro wrestling world. And again, I appreciate you guys joining via YouTube with some of the comments that you are offering here. JT Burns saying stunning, Rip Bray, you had the whole world in your hands. Anthony saying a gut punch for sure. Marcos praying Eric Rowan is okay, losing Brody, losing Bray. Just tragic. When I heard the news, it hit really close to home. Really close to home for a variety of reasons. Number one, obviously, I work very close with Matt Hardy, who was great friends with Bray, and as you'd imagine, an immeasurable loss for someone who was very close friends with him. So my heart ached for my friend, and just tragic, absolutely tragic, and to all who knew him and his family. That was one of the first things, obviously, but another thing was, for those of you who know me, you know I've been working on the indies for almost 10 years now, and I was so captivated by the art form of storytelling in pro wrestling. And needless to say, there's a ton of that goes into the in-ring side of things. But for me, it's always the captivating promo, the character that captures you and makes your mind wander into imagination. When I first saw Bray Wyatt, I'm not even sure if many of you remember this promo. I know some of you, my buddy Doug here, love you too. He's someone, an OG, who goes back with me on this. One of the promos that really made me want to tackle getting into pro wrestling was one of Bray Wyatt's debut FCW promos. And if you haven't gone out of your way to watch this yet, you need to. Just go on YouTube. I can't air it here. I'd love to air it here, but I can't due to copyright. But he cuts this promo. This is when he had Eli Conwood behind him, and it's his debut promo. I'm pretty sure it's a vignette, and it's just him one take. He's introducing the character, and he talks about a shrimp boat, working on a shrimp boat, and how I don't want to ruin it, but if you haven't watched it, go out of your way. He talks about his father joining him on a shrimp boat after wearing him down and talking down to him, and then suddenly the shrimp boat burned down one day. It was this classic portrayal built out of Mark Twain literature. I can't remember ever being so captivated by a character and a promo in professional wrestling. I've been watching professional wrestling since 1997. Never was I gripped like that. And when I saw that, I was in college. And I remember watching and saying to myself, that is the coolest thing ever. What I would do to have an opportunity to do something like that in a pro wrestling realm. And I thought the early magic of the Bray Wyatt character was some of the most groundbreaking and influential shit that we have ever seen in professional wrestling. So when I heard this news, I was just taken back. I was taken back to a point in time where I was really looking for direction in life and what to do and what inspired me. And I can honestly say, very honestly say, that without that character coming into my vision, my line of vision, I don't think I'd be having this conversation with you guys right now. It reinvigorated my love for this crazy, crazy industry because it showed me, as I'm sure it showed many of you, the possibilities of what can exist when you allow someone to exercise their creative freedom. What an unbelievably special talent. Mr. Epic, same for guys. Like, it's the character and the promo that make us. Sean O'Sullivan, absolutely gutted. Got the chance to meet Bray a few years ago at a live event in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Couldn't have been nicer. Stayed longer than he needed to sign autographs. Everbean saying there are never right words to say here. I always feel like prayers, condolences, all that seems shallow, repeated so often they lose meaning. Love is what's needed. Love for Bray and his family. Jason saying seeing Bray's work live was one of the best experiences I've had at a wrestling show. I'll tell you what, I was live in person for the return of Bray at Extreme Rules in Philadelphia last year, almost a year ago now. I cannot think of this more. Okay, so like I talk about this on my podcast a lot. I feel what makes pro wrestling so special is when the artist connects with the crowd. When you form that authentic, impenetrable connection, that is what makes it truly special. And that night, 16,000 people at Wells Fargo Center, whatever it was, when he comes out after all the different little spooky things that they showed around the arena. Chills, absolute chills. Absolute chills. I'm never going to forget that for the rest of my life. I was at WrestleMania 30 when he had his first WrestleMania match, his intro. His great introduction that he had, the live band. I had heard a very positive update about him just about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. A very positive one. And, when I was surprised to hear that it had been so extensive but I mean, I think it was Sean Ross Sapp who you saw a report from him that indicated that there were conversations about getting him back in the fold. Um, and it seemed like things were going really well with him after disappearing. So when you're getting a positive update like that, and then all of a sudden, so shortly after, you lose that, it's shocking. And my heart just goes out so intensely to not just his family, but all of these people that got a chance to work alongside him and closely and got to know him. I only had a couple encounters with him and they weren't long, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I knew this man well. But even the episode of The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy that Matt and I did, where we did an hour and a half on Bray, you could see the love and affinity that people had for him. And hearing Matt's stories about him and the type of family man that he was, that's what just kills you. You hear these stories about how much they love the kids. And if you follow JoJo on social media or you follow Bray on social media, they're all about their kids. And it's just brutal. It's just brutal. Frank says, what a special talent, giving us great moments. He joins his brother Brody Lee. Now, I'll tell you what, I know that the loss of Brody Lee really, really impacted him. It impacted a lot of us. But it just feels so similar, doesn't it? You lose someone so soon. Ben says, Crush Man passively followed wrestling for 20 years before Wyndham drew me back in. Few others could captivate an audience the way he could. Ripped to one of the most special performers I've ever seen. Yeah, I knew someone very well when I worked in Florida who knew him from his college football days. I think he went to Troy. And he said, you'd never know that this guy would actually end up following the pro wrestling path. But then when he did, he was such a natural. He had the instinctive credibility that would lend it to him finding success. And I really hated when fans were tough on him. I hated when they would make comments about his appearance or stuff creatively not landing. Listen, I think there was a lot of Bray Wyatt stuff that did not work. I blame very little of it on him. I think, frankly, he was too creative for his own good in the WWE wall sometimes. And there's a lot of stuff in the Bray Wyatt timeline that you're like, man, that was rough. Yet every time that something rough would happen, you still paid attention because he had this aura that sucked you in every single time he was on TV. Every single time. You know, when they say that someone has it, Bray Wyatt bled it. There's so much of it. I'm just gutted. I'm just gutted. Ed in the StreamYard chat says I could easily seen Bray as a movie director. Says the Wyatt family leader version of Bray is in my top 10 wrestling characters the last 25 years. Yeah. It's the Wyatt family was such magic. Such magic. Rosie asking how's Matt hanging in. It was rough. It was rough. And I highly encourage you, if you can reach out to Matt via social media, please do. I did. I was the one that shared the news with him after it came down, and It was rough. It was rough. And that's a guy who rode with him, and I think Matt was a really integral part of giving Bray some new life as a character, as a babyface at that moment in time. They had a great WrestleMania moment together in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. It was a really, really important run for him, and I can't encourage you enough. Go check out, it's up for free, The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. We did an episode on the Deleters of Worlds, and you can really get some insight on Bray from Matt and the type of human being that Wyndham Rotunda was. Dawn says, an amazing and creative human, being gone way too soon. Thoughts, prayers, and love to his family, friends, fans, and all who knew him. Ever being Bray Wyatt was an amazing creative force. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but even the bad was memorable. He made you engage in caring about that moment, good or bad. And I'd love to hear some of your guys' favorite Bray Wyatt moments, your favorite Bray Wyatt matches, anything that you would like to share with us that we can discuss and talk about, because I would love to get to your thoughts. Like I said, guys, I do have a Patreon that I allow for any live video I do. I have StreamYard access where people join me and talk with me. It's wrestlingaccordingtoalba.com. I'm not trying to sell anything to you right now. I'm just explaining that because I'm going to have a few people here in a few minutes who have been in the StreamYard chat who are going to join and talk about Bray with me and give their thoughts and just talk. So that is a way for any of my streams you can interact with me. But tonight, if you see people show up, that is why. Rajiv says, extremely shocking news. I met him once. He could not have been kinder. I said, I don't want to bother you. He smiled and said, you're never bothering me, brother. Let's walk and talk. I mean, come on now. Come on now. There's a lot more good people in pro wrestling these days than there are bad people. It's just not fair, man. Everbean says, it's not my favorite Bray Wyatt moment, but Bray was the only one to get John Cena to go heel even for a second for that cinematic match. That was amazing work, yeah. The WrestleMania cinematic match that they did was out of this world. Firefly Funhouse match. Jordan says the Wyatt family is one of the most creatively rich and believably portrayed gimmick stables in wrestling history. 100% agree. Especially the initial incarnation of it was certainly beyond special. And again, there were times where I think they got away from it that was maybe a little too goofy or spooky, supernatural for the sake of it. But I think the initial incarnation was the most captivating TV that you were going to find in that era. And I can't stress enough, I said this in the beginning of the stream, go out of your way to find the FCW promo on YouTube from 2012. He's just 25 years old. It's the introduction of the Bray Wyatt character. Above and beyond anything anyone was doing at that time. Let's get some people up in here. I got one of my patrons, Anna, here. Anything you'd like to share, Anna, about this tragic loss?
Well, I think, whenever someone dies, we all quickly just want to be with our family and our friends. And it's just, this is one that hits home because he was a huge mental health advocate, which is not something that existed in pro wrestling when I was growing up at all. Like John, we grew up in the same era. So, okay, And so anytime he's ever spoken up about that, I'm like, fuck yes. Speak up. Tell me about what's going on in the locker room because it makes me want to pursue a career in there. Also, he didn't look like the standard superstar that WWE would typically hire. And so he was a big representative of that. And so it's an awful day for the whole world, not just the wrestling world, the whole world. They lost someone who represented more outside the ring, who represented the mental health advocacy, who represented everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so I'm sorry if my Wi-Fi is being a little choppy here. For my condolences to people who are close fans with him. I think my Wi-Fi is being stupid. I'm sorry.
Are you okay?
But just hug your family and hug your friends. So
yeah,
I think
absolutely.
my Wi-Fi is being stupid. So I'm gonna.
Yeah, I think we're losing Anna there. It's all good though. I appreciate those words, and you're absolutely right. I think it's been amazing how in recent years we've started embracing mental health in the public realm, especially in the pro wrestling realm. I think it's so special and so important to talk about those things. And Bray was open to a degree about a lot of those things. It's amazing what kind of inspiration that can give for people. It gives hopes. It gives hope to people too, which is just so special and so appreciated. ARGXN underscore says deeply saddened by this news. His mid 2010s run was incredible, but also thinking that Uncle Howdy will be one of wrestling's biggest what ifs. It could be. I'll be honest. The most recent iteration wasn't working so much for me, but I had faith that something could be saved from it because you knew how creative he was. And that first promo after the pay-per-view on a SmackDown was unbelievable. And he starts showing this vulnerable side of himself in this like work shoot kind of setting. He starts opening up and being very vulnerable. And I thought they were going to go that route of being this like vulnerable cult leader, and they didn't end up doing that. But so much credit has to go for the creativity and the thought process put into that. The White Rabbit stuff got so much traction. The Fiend stuff when it debuted was the hottest thing in wrestling. The Firefly Funhouse and all the creative vignettes they did for that. It was really, really great. Jenny, such a creative talent, loved his Wyatt family. The stuff he did with Alexa Bliss made both of them a unique edge to their already amazing characters who will be treasured and missed. Dawn says, can't forget about his matches with Daniel Bryan. They were great in the ring together. I think Daniel Bryan's his best opponent in the ring. The segment from Providence on top of the cage when Daniel Bryan leaves the Wyatt family is doing the yes stuff. It's one of the best moments of Bryan's career in WWE. No doubt about that. Just wild. Let's get some more people up here. I got one of my patrons, Phil. Phil, you've been in here. Anything that you'd like to throw into the conversation here?
I'm just shocked. I'm surprised. And there are people out on the internet world that are going to say, well, it was probably this or it was probably that. They're going to say maybe it was drugs. We don't know. But I saw Bray Wyatt when he was Husky Harris up in Augusta, Maine. And he was just having a good time in the ring.
I'll tell you, Phil, I can't stress this enough. How he died or the circumstances of his death are not really all that important right now. They're not. And, should the family choose to share those circumstances at some point, that's entirely their jurisdiction. But I think people speculating it's a really reckless thing to do. It's a very reckless thing to do. So I ask that people don't do that out of respect to the family and friends of Wyndham Rotunda. But yeah, the Husky Harris stuff, I mean, that was a character that really didn't have a whole lot of upside, but he still managed to leverage that into something very successful. And I think that made him special.
Yeah, he took it and ran with it.
He did. Absolutely. Is there anything else you'd like to add there, Phil?
No, that's about it. I'm just state of shock right now.
Well, I appreciate you, Phil. Thank you so much for hopping on, and thank you for your support here. Of course, again, I'm explaining this because I've gotten a few DMs and chats about it, people who want to hop on. for my Patreon, WrestlingCoinAlba.com, any live stream I do, the patrons get StreamYard access. So this is a live stream I'm doing, but I open this up to everybody because I want everybody involved with this. So in the future, if you would like to do live streams with me, I'd love to have you, WrestlingCoinAlba.com. But right now, this is free for everybody. I want everyone to have access to this because I think the biggest thing that you can do when you're experiencing loss or grief is talking about and sharing that with people. I think that's very, very important to do. It brings up that line for any of you who watched WandaVision. I think this is one of the greatest lines ever written. I mean that genuinely. And Wanda's talking about the grief of losing her brother, and Vision comes up to her and he says, "What is grief if not love persevering? What is grief if not love persevering?" Meaning that grief is terrible. It's a horrible feeling. But the reason we grieve is because we love something or love someone so much. And the idea of having them filled us with so much joy, and that it's something that's worth taking pride in and being happy about, that we shared in something or someone that brought us joy and brought us affection and brought us love. And I think when you're talking about loss, that's a really important way to look at life. A really important way to look at life. And I'd love to keep reading some of your thoughts and ideas about Bray Wyatt's career and his life. So please feel free to keep commenting. Ed is one of my patrons. He's here in the StreamYard chat. What's up, man?
Hey, John.
Okay.
This has been a sucky month. Earlier this month, it's been 2 years since we lost my favorite all-time wrestler, Bobby Eaton. Yesterday, losing to Funkster, and now... Oh, let me collect my thoughts here. You stole my thunder. My favorite all-time... my two favorite Bray Wyatt... The first time I saw Bray Wyatt as Bray Wyatt, the cult leader on NXT, that was like... Whoa, what happened to Husky Harris? It's like, it was so very Robert De Niro-like.
Yeah.
From Cape Fear. And then my second favorite was his program with Daniel Bryant, where I think the Bray Wyatt program was almost as important a program for Daniel Bryant as his program with Triple H was in the end. So.
Yeah, I mean, it got him some serious babyface momentum for sure. They had that awesome match at the Royal Rumble that year. They really tore it down, and they had great chemistry together. Absolutely, Ed, you're 100% right, and I'm so sorry to hear that. You know, you're feeling this loss so heavily, and I think a lot of people are. I think a lot of people are definitely. You know, it's tragic.
When you talk to Matt, give him my condolences about it.
I will, absolutely. It was a tough night. It was a tough night for Matt. And for everyone who knew Bray.
It hurts just because I grew up watching his dad wrestle, his uncle Barry and Kendall wrestle, his grandfather. Shoot, I'm old.
Well, we knew that already. But
yeah. Yeah. Okay, thanks for letting me be
course.
on.
Of course, Ed. I appreciate you, pal. I mean, you see that emotion, guys. It's heartbreaking, but there's also this beauty in it that someone who most of us have never even met or know at length can instill so much emotion from people. That's the beauty of this art. And it really is a beauty. Mike Senor Dijak says, Bray Wyatt will always hold a special place in my heart. He was so special in a time where characters and creative storytelling were dying. He changed the game. Thank you, Bray. Well said, my friend. Well said. Got Josh here. How's it going, buddy?
It's humbling, man. Ed, you brought up being old. You know, the older you get and these young kids and people passing away, it kind of makes you question your mortality a little bit. So, you know, I'm kind of, you know, just melancholy a little bit, but Bray, to me, my favorite match was that Elimination Chamber match where he won the championship because it was in Phoenix. And the day before that, I was just a pallbearer at a good friend's funeral. And my kids said to me, "Hey, Dad, we want to make signs for it." I said, "Go ahead, kids, make any signs you want. We'll go to the show. I'll fly back early after the funeral. We'll go." And they're the only ones that had Bray Wyatt signs there. And we went completely nuts. We were in the worst of the worst seats up in the nosebleeds. That's all I could afford back then. But man, you would have thought we were at WrestleMania. The pop there that night in Phoenix was great. It was just a special evening, because not only did I end one life ended, I really discovered Bray Wyatt that night, and I rode with him ever since, and through the Fiend and through everything else. I knew him as Husky Harris and all that, and I've always followed him, but to feel being in the crowd with those fireflies, that was an unbelievable feeling. Seeing him raw at just live, and then being at his last match this year at the Rumble when he beat LA Knight, I'm always going to remember that. And Bray, I know you can hear me. We appreciate everything that you did. You're an amazing storyteller, a great father, a great husband, and a great man. You'll be missed.
Really well said, Rosie, and I appreciate you sharing that. That was special when he won the championship, because I think a lot of people figured he had a ceiling. And when he won the championship, he kind of broke through that ceiling a bit. And I'm not going to sit here and say they booked him well with the championship. No. I think we can all agree that that was not something that happened. But with that said, him getting that moment, that's the top of your game, right? Like you're the WWE champion. That is the top of the industry.
Right.
And there are very few people in history who can say that they did that. And he did. He did that. So no doubt a special moment. I appreciate you sharing that. Is there anything you want to throw in there?
Nope. I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to remain positive. It doesn't come in threes, and we're going to remember two great men and their contributions to the sport, and looking forward to a big AEW weekend and Payback, and then All In, All Out. It's going to be a big 2 weeks. So I'm going to focus on what's coming up and remember these guys throughout the entire 2-week experience.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you, Josh. Thank you so much. And thank you for your support of me as well over the years. And I look forward to chatting with you soon. So appreciate you. Everbeen sharing this says, just want to share a song I always listen to when I lose someone. Vertical Horizons Forever. If you're looking for something to help process, feel, remember, hope it helps. Thank you for sharing that. Vertical Horizons Forever. For anyone who wants to check that out. Chad Epic says, tell Ed, I say keep strong. So thank you for sharing that. Again, guys, I want to hear your thoughts on everything that's happened here. It's just a terribly tragic situation that, again, we lost a young human being way too soon. Way too soon. And as I plugged before, Matt and I did an episode on Bray and the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. You can go back and find it wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube, where we talked about an hour and a half of Bray, and you really get some great insight as to the type of person that Wyndham Rotunda was, and the type of father he was, and the type of worker that he was, and some of the hardships that he had to deal with. Dijak says, the Fiend winning the title from Rollins on Halloween at Crown Jewel is my all-time favorite Bray Wyatt moment. Interesting there. I want to pop up someone who is one of the minds behind a lot of Conrad's podcasts, the researcher, Derek Sabato. He's on the road right now, but we just lost him, but we'll try to get him back at some point here. I know I've had a lot of ums here, guys. It's because I'm truly at a loss of words. Bobby says it's pretty surreal to be at the Royal Rumble and seeing Bray come out for his match with LA Knight, but I'm forever grateful that I was able to be there, as you should be. As you should be. I believe that was his last match, if someone would like to correct me, feel more than free. Phil says, imagine Terry Funk in his prime versus Bray Wyatt, the storytelling and the psychology. Absolutely, man. No doubt about that. Great comment from Anna. Death is so hard to process. If you're struggling with this, please talk to someone or reach out. Hug your friends, family, and never forget to tell people how important they are. Absolutely. And I extend that to all of you. I'm so appreciative of all of you who are tuning in right now, sharing this. For my patrons who are part of this, thank you again for being part of that and for all your support. It's so appreciated. And we really are like a family. I appreciate the Al's Army so much. When we dropped this news in the Discord, one of our patrons, Jordan, dropped the news first. It was just gut punch, absolute gut punch. Brother Fluff Salisbury says he was my son's favorite wrestler. He's so devastated right now. I'm so sorry to hear that. Dawn says, I was so looking forward to seeing him come back and put forth his vision. He had an amazing mind that sadly we'll never be able to see again. We have lost many before, but this really hurts. Wrestled a live event against LA. Okay, so his last TV match. Bobby says, none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. Father Time does no jobs. You are right about that, my friend. You are absolutely right about that. Let's try Derek one more time here, see if this actually works. Derek, you with us? I guess not working. That's okay. Everbean says, so strange to lose Funk and win a back-to-back. You need creative, crazy good talent. Absolutely. But, the thing with Terry Funk, too, it's like he was 79 years old. We knew he wasn't in great health. So while it's tragic, you have time to prepare yourself for something to get a chance to kind of soak that in. Whereas this is just, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. Adam O'Neill overseas says, so shocking. This is a hard one to process, but I will smile at the memories he has provided us all. Thank you, Bray. Tim Cooper says, rip, thanks for the good memories. We're going to try to get Derek on real soon because I'm sure he's got some great insight. Do I think there will be a tribute tomorrow? I would assume that there's a good chance tomorrow's episode becomes a Bray Wyatt tribute episode, or at least he's heavily featured in tribute. Special talent that we were very fortunate to get to experience. And a human being, too, at the end of the day, that was able to bless so many people with his presence. His special presence. All right, we got Derek now. Derek, I think we should be able to hear you now. What's on your mind, man?
Everything that everybody said about Bray Online it's kind of crazy to think, a year and a half ago it was Brody, and now it's Bray. And it's surreal to think two young guys in the business just gone like that. It's crazy. Everybody's always said Bray's the smartest guy in wrestling. He got more creative power than anyone ever got in the beginning of his run and continue to get. And for him to, 6 months after Royal Rumble, just went off TV, and then here we are today. Like it's so real to hear that. And people still don't think it's real. There are a couple people in AEW that are over in England that didn't actually think it was real until the Hunter tweet came out, but it's crazy. It's really crazy. And God, a day after one of the greatest creative guys ever in the business in Terry Funk, you have another one going today. It's a sad day for everyone. And the Rotundas and the Funks, the Wyndhams, just everyone was so closely associated. It's just sad to think what their families have to go through in the last couple of days, and just the power of it all. It's discouragingly sad.
Yeah.
That we got through a lot of steroid deaths, and now it feels like there's another, just health risks out there, and see a lot of good young men, fortunately, having health scares.
Yeah. It's horrible. It's horrible. And, and again, not going into specifics of anything that happened here, but it does serve as a general reminder to everyone. If your body's telling you something, listen to it and go out there and make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Because
Life's short.
You never know. Life is short. Absolutely. It can be short if you are not taking care of yourself. And again, not speculating or anything of that
Yeah.
nature. It's just a general make sure you're looking out for yourself kind of message. I mean, where do you think he sits in the modern era of creative types, Derek? You're pretty well researched and knowledgeable. I'd love to hear your opinion on that.
I'd say in the last 10 years, he's got to be one of the few guys who, before he was in the upper echelon of guys, to have the ability to sit down and go, here's what I want to do. Here's where we can go. You know, he got Cena very early on in a WrestleMania.
His first
It's not
WrestleMania.
right. So it's not a, you know, he was one of the boys that came in with a push. You know, he got reset a couple times, and it took a tremendous amount of drive and creativity to put the Wyatt family gimmick together, to have the platform in NXT, to get bumped up. Kane on SummerSlam for his first one, the vignettes, a lot of that stuff was done by him. You know, within 6 months, getting Cena at Mania, he got more credit as someone being creative quicker than anybody else in the business once the door was open. You know, you hear about Austin, you know, and his wife coming up with Stone Cold. It took a little bit to get there. The instant he was revamped with the Wyatt family, you know, we started Husky Harris, and then you end up here. He is by far one of the most influential guys that had a voice, continue to have a voice. Probably left because he had too big a voice, and then brought back when they knew they needed someone. And I don't think that can be discredited. He didn't go anywhere else. I don't think anywhere else would have been good for him. I think the outlet was what he always wanted. It sounds silly on a weekend where another company is going to draw 80,000 people with the biggest stage. I don't know that AEW would have allowed it because it's a different presentation. But when they gave him the ball, he ran with it.
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off here, but I do want to share something that is just coming across at this moment in time from our colleague Sean Ross Sapp. He says, quote, I was given permission to reveal that earlier this year, Wyndham Rotunda Bray Wyatt got COVID that exasperated a heart issue. There was a lot of positive progress towards a return in his recovery. Unfortunately, today he suffered a heart attack and passed away.
All right. Well, that's good that he was allowed to tell that. I mean, I think everyone's kind of put that together in the last couple of months with the up and downness of is he coming back? Is it life threatening? You know, it's not the Brody situation because Brody was super kayfabe and kept away. All that was kept away from everyone. But I think at this point in time where we're at with COVID, it can't be a surprise. It's just that shit ain't going away either.
No,
all these people who think it's gone, it ain't gone.
No,
I'm not trying to make a point or laugh at it or anything like that, but it is still going, and it is. Yeah. You talk about a reminder. Bray has gone up and down in weight throughout his time. Mm-hmm. That's not something that's easy on the heart either. That takes a lot of work, and he had shown capability of blowing up and then losing a lot quickly, and that puts a lot of strain on the heart. And when you put a major respiratory illness involved, not good.
No, it's not. And again, Sean shared that with permission, so understand that came from Wyndham Rotunda's camp. Okay, so anybody out there who is trying to point fingers or anything like that, Sean is very responsible with that stuff. And
that's not going to be revealed unless wanted.
Correct. So that's the status of that. But anything else you'd like to add here, Derek?
I've had a couple people tell me in the last, I don't even know how long it's been, 2 hours now. He was one of the boys and was one of the biggest champion boys. If you ever want to know what Bray does or did, I should say, Amanda Huber posted something a couple of years ago, probably about a year and a half ago, about something that was going on with her and Brody and how he rallied the boys around. And all I've heard from everyone today is shock, dismay, and how he was a champion of the boys believed in the boys, didn't take shit from anyone that wasn't one of them, and would always stand up for what he believed in. And I think at the end of the day, that's going to be his legacy. He may mean as much as he meant to everyone in front of the camera, he somehow meant more behind the camera. And I think that's the story that's going to be told of his legacy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Derek, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you sharing all of that. And you travel safe, my friend. And I appreciate you.
You got it,
Thank
John. See you.
Yeah, guys, that's gonna wrap up here this stream. But I'm so grateful for all of you guys, and thank you for everyone who hopped on here. Again, I go live multiple times a week on my Patreon, wrestlingaccordingtoalba.com. And the people you heard from tonight are patrons, so I appreciate them hopping on. If you'd like to join us, please feel more than free to hit that link. But again, that was not the point of tonight. I wanted to just get my thoughts out here and talk with everyone, because I think when we grieve, we need to talk. And you guys have been so great in the chat and sharing such great thoughts and comments and your memories. And I'm so appreciative of you guys joining in. And it really does mean a lot, because you helped me too. Because I got this news tonight and I had no idea what to do with myself. And I'm sure a lot of us felt the same way. So my appreciation to all of you. Know that you are all important. You are all meaningful. You all have purpose. And to look after yourself. If your body tells you something, listen to it. Because you never know what could be going on. And you always want to make sure that you're there, not just for yourself, but for the people that care about you. And there are a lot of people that care about Wyndham Rotunda. And may his memory live on. And yeah, nothing else to say. My appreciation for all of you. Have a great night, everyone.